from Starr Studios in Denison, Texas, this is Coffee with a Sign Painter, a weekly podcast hosted by sign painter Sean Starr that consists of interviews with other sign painters and some of the customers and characters Sean comes across while running his studio.
Here we are with another episode of Coffee with a Sign Painter. Thanks for tuning in. At this point in the saga, we will probably have gotten back home from Limerick, Ireland, but I'm pre-recording some of these episodes so that you've got something to listen to while my wife and I recover from what will undoubtedly be massive jet lag. What I'm going to go ahead and do today is really kind of interesting. Within days of purchasing the equipment to record the podcast, I had a gentleman named John Grenier come in to the studio. He just popped in out of the blue, and turns out he's long-term sign painter connected to the original letterheads. Really interesting guy. We had a really good conversation, and I was not even recording podcasts quite yet at that point, but I said, hey, I just plugged in this microphone stuff. Why don't we go ahead and do an interview while you're here? So technically, this is my very first interview for the show, and I think it went okay. I obviously needed to do some work on some things, but still an interesting conversation. And so let's go ahead and listen to John Grenier and get to meet him. Joe, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself, tell me where you're from and all that, and then we'll just continue talking like we were.
All right. Yeah, my name is John Grenier, and yes, I am a card-carrying sign writer. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Last 20 years, though, I've been in Hessel, Michigan. And, of course, everyone knows where that's at. Hessel is the center of the universe, I think. Anyway, Hessel is in the eastern upper peninsula of Michigan. Aleutian Islands. Nobody's there right now. That's why I'm in Texas.
Understood.
I've been painting signs since, for money, since Ralph Rodriguez's dad gave me $5 to paint Rodriguez's mobile on the front of on the glass of their gas station when I was in junior high school.
Nice. What year was that?
1967.
Very cool. I was born in 68.
Well, I have seniority on you then.
Yes, you do. You win.
The guy in the neighborhood that was the sign writer there, his name was Gork.
Gork, okay.
Yeah, like Gorky Park, you know?
Yeah.
And Gork was a drunk, as it seems that's sometimes the reputation of old sign writers.
Yeah.
So Gork would always have about a 10-year-old Cadillac, and he'd bust the back window out of the Cadillac so he put his ladders in there.
Oh, my God.
And the trunk didn't close, but it did cover all his paint and stuff to keep it from getting wet.
Okay.
And he'd live in that Cadillac till it got cold enough and he had to rent a room again. So this was the guy that my dad knew who was a sign writer.
Okay.
And when I told my dad I'm just going to pursue this sign painting stuff, he was furious.
Uh-huh.
You can't do that. You're not a bum, you know. But anyway, my E is still Gork's E.
Huh?
Yeah, my E, the letter E.
Oh, okay.
It's Gork's E.
You swiped his E.
I took his E. Yeah,
okay.
It lives on. Yeah.
Nice.
Egyptian spur little E.
Okay.
And his shadow's on the left side.
Okay.
Yeah, not the right side.
Okay, yeah. There's always a constant debate over the shadow.
Yeah, if you're right-handed, it was faster for me to do it on the left side. Yeah. I didn't have to think about it. If it's on the right side, I'll have to fix one of them at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not dogmatic enough to say it should be one or the other.
Oh, I don't say it should be one or the other. I like it on the right side when I put names on boats.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it feels better.
Okay, you were telling me earlier, I guess you used to work alongside Rick Glawson.
Well, I won't claim that I worked alongside of him, but I will claim hanging out there a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rick liked to, he was extremely generous. He didn't keep any technique a secret.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. And he told me, he said, like, give everybody on the block a piano and somebody's going to play it best.
Right.
And that's how he viewed understanding techniques and materials. And I don't know what his background was. It seemed that he really had a lot of, he understood chemistry really well.
Yeah, I heard that, I read somewhere that like he refigured out a lot of the old formulas and mixtures and stuff.
Right.
So
yeah,
maybe
his Angel Guild technique.
Yeah, so maybe he had that background. I don't know. I don't know that much about him before he started.
He did teach me how to do blue chip glass.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was hard to be around there too because he only did his work in the middle of the night.
Really?
Yeah, in the daytime it was, taking care of business and shop and stuff. So that was sort of weird. But anyway, I did contract him when I was able to buy some stuff when I worked for a scenery and props company. Kind of give him a little payback. For,
right.
Contracted a nice little paycheck job out of it that I was able to buy from him. That was at the Mall of America. They had a Camp Snoopy in the center of an amusement ride thing,
Okay.
It's since changed. I don't know what it is now. They always change that stuff fast.
Hang on just a second.
Good.
Cool.
So did you letter this? You did that?
Yeah. It's just old stuff I come across like cheap at garage sales.
Uh-huh.
I'll clean it up and paint something on it to make it look like it would be an old sign.
Yeah, I like painted furniture and fixtures and things like that. You always keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, like that case where I keep all my old antique stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I got that for $75 at a garage sale up in Big Bear.
There you go. Now it's worth $125.
I think that's generous.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think I could break an even 100 on eBay, maybe.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what. That's people really like that stuff. We've done some painted furniture out of the gallery at home.
What's your gallery?
It's Leschino Islands Art Gallery.
Leschino Islands?
Yeah, Lescheneaux. Leschino.
Holy cow, that's probably hard to
Yeah, that's, everybody's
explain over the phone.
Yeah. I usually say to someone, let me have your email address and I'll send you my contact info, But yeah, it's, and my wife Diana is, she's a fine artist, portrait artist, landscapes, and since we're up there, antique wooden boat portraits, because that's the big deal.
Okay.
In the Leschino Islands in Hessel, Michigan, is where the very first Chris Craft dealer was at.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the reason that it is what it is because it's hot in the South and certainly in the Great Lakes cities, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, everything that's on the Great Lakes. People got on these passenger ships and they would travel north up the Great Lakes to several different locations, Mackinac Island, the Leschino Islands, where we're at, Drummond Island, because there was no air conditioning.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And so the world's longest porch at the Grand Hotel, it's one of those things that will be featured on America's Great Hotels,
Okay.
The governor has a mansion on the island, things like that.
Gotcha.
So there's 32 islands in the Leschino Islands that are able to be inhabited. They're big enough, to put a house on. So people have been coming there since probably about the 1890s, maybe just before that. It's called the Leschino Club. People built cottages. And
that's around when this building was built.
Right. The beginning of big industrial age.
Yeah. I guess this area right here, at the time that this was built, like this was the center of cotton production or collecting or whatever you call it.
It's a beautiful building, and there's no question about it. It's a train station when I walked into it.
Yeah, it's really cool. The space that the studio is in, this glass partition was originally not there, and this was all the formal dining room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got a postcard floating around somewhere of what it looked like in 1911, which basically looked about the same except for the partition.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful, and that's the era that like the Les Chenaux Club was really taken off. There's the Prairie School of Architecture has, Frank Lloyd Wright influenced architects and stuff that built many of the cottages that are on the islands there. Well, so as a result of having all these islands, you got to have boats. So this fella, E.J. Murtaugh, he started the very first Chris Craft dealership.
Okay.
Chris Craft had stores. Before that, they had their own stores, like in New York and, all the major cities in the United States and in Europe. Well, apparently they followed Ford's business model and franchised dealerships. And E.J. Murtaugh they have a document. It says franchise number 1. It doesn't say 001. It just says 1 on it. And so many of the boats that were originally sold brand new, and especially it was probably about the middle of about 1925 or so, up through when Chris Craft stopped making wooden boats, and that was, I believe, 60. Gosh, it might be as late as 69. A friend of mine has a Chris Craft Grand Prix, like a 22-foot long boat, that they didn't even make a sales pamphlet for it. They only made 50 of them or something. And that was it's one of the last wooden boats that Chris Craft made.
Okay.
Everything's fiberglass. And so I put names on boats.
Okay.
And sometimes I have to do it exactly like it's been. It's just the way it has to be.
Like a restoration
right,
thing.
Right. And there's several boatyards in the neighborhood there. And so just before the last couple coats of varnish, I come in and I put the name on it.
Okay. Are you doing, do you do a lot of gold leaf on them? Or
Almost, rarely is it not gold.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not gold.
So you'll go letter the transom or whatever,
yeah.
And then when you're done and the paint's dry, they'll come and put the last coats of varnish to see.
Yeah, they usually put 2 coats over it. That way they've got some barrier, some protection, because they revarnish the boats depending on how much sun exposure they get, certainly every 5 years.
Okay.
So that gives enough varnish over top of the lettering that it can be lightly scuffed and sanded and more varnish put on. Okay. Oh, there's boats that I was telling you earlier, the guy that I really learned a lot from, Carl Malmquist. There's a lot of boats that he lettered in the early 1950s that they're still there.
Awesome.
I mean, sometimes they'll have me come and maybe touch up, or maybe one of the outlines got sanded through or something. But I mean, they're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, gold is gold. It doesn't wear out.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome though. One thing we were talking about when you first got here.
Before I asked for a job, or?
Yeah, no, that's before I turned you down.
Yeah.
The common thing among all sign painters, with kind of like being afraid of the genie being let out of the bottle, so to speak.
Oh, that they find out that we're really not.
Yeah, they make all this stuff up, and yeah.
I hope they don't see that little corner that they just messed up. I was traveling on my motorcycle, and I was it was either Arizona or New Mexico, I've forgotten. Anyway, there's one of these tourist places that they sell Indian jewelry and stuff, blankets and that. And I wanted a Navajo blanket. And so I go in there, and I'm looking around, and the place is empty, and it's early in the day, and the guy behind the counter, he's an Indian, and I look up at this photo, and it's Bill Clinton shaking this guy's hand, right? Well, I got to ask, Well, he was one of those windtalker guys.
Oh, okay.
And he was definitely a talker. Well, I'm asking him, well, how do I know, if I see a Navajo blanket in a garage sale or something, how do I know if it's real? And he says, well, you look in one of the corners and you'll find a flaw, and that flaw is intentional.
Okay.
And that flaw is where the evil spirits are allowed to escape. So if one of my customers finds a flaw, I just assure them that it is evil spirit free.
That's quite a marketing trick.
So anyway, usually they'll laugh and they leave it there. Unless it's a spelling error, it's usually okay.
Yeah.
And it's always something that you forget maybe to complete a little part of an outline on a end of a letter or something.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it's something that because we see all of those details every day, all day long, that we're seeing things that the average person doesn't see.
And all those other sign painters are way better than I am. That's how I always feel.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
No matter how many little awards and things you win and recognitions.
Like, now that guy knows what he's doing.
That guy knows, Yeah, he was
But then there's the occasional guy like David Smith where you look at it and you're just like, okay, that guy's in a different stratosphere.
Right.
I don't understand what he's doing. It's amazing, but I can't even wrap my brain around it,
David Smith, is that the guy in England?
Yeah, the gold guy.
Right.
England. Yeah,
that's one of the pilgrimages I'd like to make sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Go hang out there.
Yeah. Like to look over that shoulder for a few
sweep
days.
his floor till they finally let you do something.
Yeah.
And that's the way I felt when I first met Rick Glawson. And
David Smith, I believe, took multiple classes with Rick back in the early 90s or something, I think.
And that's when I knew Rick was, it would have been 1988, we went to Los Angeles. My wife went to Loyola Marymount to get a master's degree. And that was part of the reason we went to Los Angeles. And Rick only had, I don't think he owned the building. Yeah, maybe he did own it. He was renting half of the building. And then within a few years, he kicked out the renter guy.
Okay.
Because he needed more space and built more stuff. And he was always building stuff. And then I found out he was a cabinet maker, and that explained all the really clever joinery and things for the little easels that he would build for his stuff.
Nice.
And he had a design for a drying box for the blue chip glass. It's a couple feet deep and 5 or 6 feet wide.
Most guys have like a hairdryer or something to heat it up, right?
Well, he drew his up with some heat lamps, like bathroom heat lamps.
Okay.
4 of those on the inside and a thermostat and a little fan. And
oh, wow.
So I copied it, and I built one in my shop, and I use that thing all the time for everything. I mean,
to dry panels and things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 15 minutes later, it's ready for the next thing.
So what is your shop like up there? Like, what's the setting?
When we bought the place, we bought it on it's on a Michigan Highway 134, which is East and West Highway. It runs from the Mackinac Bridge to Drummond Island, east, and it's on the north shore of Lake Huron.
Okay.
Is where this is located, and so it's basically just a small rundown house, but it had a really big garage right on the main road. Okay. And the garage was 10-foot ceilings in it, and like 30 by nearly 40 is the size of it. And so that's why I bought it, because this will make a great little sign shop, and it's on the main road, and you get the exposure from it.
Okay.
Well, things have evolved, and now I'm reduced down to, if I really try hard, I could paint let's say, maybe an 8 by 12 sign inside of it. That's how much space I got left. Everything else is now retail space. We've got our art gallery and a gift shop. We sell etched glass stuff.
Okay.
Which, incidentally, was intended that I do the glue chip things, but I found that if I just stopped at the etching, they look really nice and send it out the door, And so there's a glass room and a paint room, and then retail space that's all filled with artwork. And it's exclusively, with the exception of a couple of pieces of my own, my wife's artwork, Diana Grenier.
So basically, she took over your workshop and turned it into a gallery for her work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way it works actually is that so much of our stuff. Oh, I know. Well, okay. Back to first Chris Craft dealership.
Okay.
All right. As a result of that, there's all these old boats there. So every year, the second Saturday of August is the Les Chenaux Islands Antique Wooden Boat Show and Festival of Arts. Well, they need a poster, so we make the poster.
Okay.
We've been doing that since 2001, and I did the first poster. The first poster that we did, I produced it. There had been 20 posters before that. This guy named Vis, V-I-S, did those. And apparently he reached a point where he said everything he needed to say in posters and quit. And so we've been doing them ever since. I did the first one in a style similar to his, which is basically a pen and ink drawing.
Okay.
And then the decision was made to go full color. And well, that's where my wife takes over, because she's excellent at that. And so we've done 20 of, or not 20 of them, 14, I think. And we have enough for a calendar.
Okay, awesome.
So people come in the shop looking for that poster, and their boat's lettered. Basically, that's it.
Okay, so are you doing pretty much mostly just boats now?
Boats and painted signs, yeah, and some carved stuff. We have a lot of that cottage signs.
Okay,
people will sometimes want something very, very elaborate. In fact, it's sometimes flattering, because they'll say, "Can you make me another sign that I can put out by the road?" The intent was to put the original one that they hired me to do out at the road.
Okay.
Well, it's too pretty. Now they want to put it in the house.
Okay.
And they want another little painted sign.
Well, then it's kind of like a decorative art thing as well. It's being functional.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
cool.
So they're carved and usually have an illustration and gilded letters.
So do you regularly come down this way during the winters? Or is this just this year you're doing that? Or we've made a few trips down here. My dad, who's since passed away, he lived in Far, Texas, which is by McAllen. That would be the airport you can fly into. So he was there for the last 12 years of his life. And so we made several trips down here. And then we have connection to Austin, Texas. My wife was a school teacher just outside of Austin. And you mentioned you knew Gary Martin years ago.
Yeah, I was, looking for work and went and introduced myself. We never did work together.
No.
But I always admired his stuff. It was
I love the way his stuff always looks like it's still wet. So much of what we do is, it's, old and weathered and distressed looking, because that's what people want from us. But, I just love the way his stuff looks like the paint's still wet.
I had a little bit of a tough time when I first went to Los Angeles working for a scenery and props company there. And often you had to have distressed work, and that was new territory for me at the time. It was like you were trying to make them pretty and new and pristine and perfect, when that's not what they wanted for that particular. They wanted it to look like it had been up for 50 years.
Right. And you did quite a bit of like set stuff out that way in
We
LA,
did,
right?
Yeah. The name of the company was Lexington Scenery and Props, and I'm still in contact with a lot of the people that I worked with then.
Is that when you knew the lady from Starr Studios?
Yeah, Donna Wymore, and Donna was manager of all of the scenic artists, and there were a lot of them. Oh my goodness. I'll bet you anywhere from 50 to 75, maybe even 100 scenic artists. And there was, kind of a comparable number of carpenters.
Were you guys all working in one place, or everyone was just kind of doing their own thing?
Yeah, when I came to work for the company, they were in a kind of an old building in North Hollywood, and yeah, everybody was tripping over everybody else. You always had to fight for space and that. Unfortunately, most of the actual signs and lettering that we did, it was either on it was on something existing. You know, they had built some flats or made some phony storefronts or inside a glass or something. So we didn't really need to have our own space to letter. We were lettering on their stuff.
Okay, you'd show up.
Yeah. We
So what's some of the stuff you worked on during that period? Like,
lots of stuff for Disney.
any movies or shows?
Yeah, there were a lot of really crappy movies that never got out. But there were some neat ones too. One that we had a large sign package for was it was about the Watts riots, and they took and transformed all these storefronts and stuff in a nearby street. Central changed it
and then burned them all down.
Well, theatrically they did, yeah. And that was a pretty good one. There was a lot of signs in that. And who's the guy, the actor that is Darth Vader? The really deep voice.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah, he was Junius in that movie.
Okay.
So, and then there was some TV shows we worked on. Did In Living Color, 3 seasons of that. So just about every time you see like you watch something on TV and it'll be about, say, Jim Carrey or the Wyans, and they'll show little clips from In Living Color, and almost always there's a sign in the background. Okay. So I used to be able to
point to that.
I used to be able to call up the old guy back in Michigan who kind of taught me the stuff. Carl, watch this TV show. You'll see one of my signs, and yeah, I did steal your lettering.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's always fun to call mom, and say that watch a TV show. You'll see a sign.
Right. This is my wife Kaylee walking in here.
Oh, hi Kaylee.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
I'm John Grenier, and that's pronounced Grenier, but when I do fine arts, it's Grenier.
Okay. Gotcha.
He's a sign painter from up in Michigan who's spending the winter down here, and he knows a bunch of people that we've crossed paths with.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of people. Though not too many people stumble into the shop in Hessel, Michigan.
He's in a really small town up there.
Yeah. There's a blinker light.
Oh, yeah, that's small.
The other person who I just saw was Teresa Drangenberg, and she's a traditional sign writer.
Where's she?
In Austin.
Okay.
She's doing a bunch of work right now on railroad cars.
Oh. Okay, so you were talking about who you said somebody else's sign painter.
Oh, well, Teresa Drangenberg in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, her and I, we worked together in California. That's where we met one another. And she introduced me to the people at that scenery and props company. And one job always leads to another.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we worked on a lot of interesting things there. And as time went by, I got to design a lot of stuff. One of the first really neat ones was the Wild West show at Universal Studios.
Oh, cool.
So that's great stuff.
Yeah,
that's on, it's weather, it's on rough textured surfaces.
That's right up my alley.
Window, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm seeing here. And so we tried to have authenticity. There's no Helvetica.
Right.
So then some while went by. Three years or something, and the company evolved from doing sets for TV shows to, like Universal Studios, themed attractions, which then leads to themed casinos, and they were doing business all over the world. And so one of the jobs that I got to design the graphics package for was at State Line, Nevada, which is now called Prim, Nevada, there was 2 casinos owned by this fella, Gary Prim, and he was opening a third one, Buffalo Bill's Wild West Casino. So there we are with.
I've had their buffet lunch.
Have you?
Yes. Whenever we would go see Kaylee's family in Salt Lake, we'd drive through Prim.
Okay.
And we've eaten lunch there.
So there's some blue chip glass in there that's a cashier on it that Rick Glawson made. And what they had was a retail spot that was sort of like a Old West Main Street.
Okay.
And so a bunch of the shops and things like that are, they're made up. It says mercantile and this and that, and whatever they sell in the real shops are that evolves. But Rick Glawson, he did they had a phony beer company. We had him make a bunch of glue chip mirrors,
Cool.
For that, and things like. I got to put my mother-in-law's name on one. So you always got to come up with all these names,
Yeah.
So that was fun to do all that stuff.
Very
I
cool.
didn't go out there with a crew of people and execute it all.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And there was a lot of balancing on the top of lifts, pettibones and scissor lifts in that casino, and then some other places too. I personally wasn't involved so much, but that company did. Like the ceiling in Caesar's Palace, they had this painted cloud ceiling that it goes from dawn till nighttime.
Okay, yeah.
They didn't do the lighting; they did the paint work.
Right.
And who I mentioned earlier, Donna Wymore, she was one of the principals involved in all those sorts of phenomenal painted effects.
It sounds like you've been able to work with a lot of really diverse, different types of people. It's awesome.
Yeah, and to make a sign. You would be able to identify this. So you got an art director. He comes in, and they give you this quick little sketch, and they want the sign, and so you do it. Bang bang. Well, you've done it too good because you're a sign writer. So then I would learn to ask questions. Well, did they get the best sign guy in town, or the guy who just started out and he's sort of a drunk?
Right. and he's also the undertaker in his spare time.
Right. So you would do things then like, was he literate? Did we, should it be too cute? Should it be a backwards S? Things like that.
Right.
And how old is the sign?
Yeah.
To age it down. So that was quite an education, and I learned that I actually I'm right-handed, so I'd actually use my left hand sometimes to paint the sign
to get a more amateur look.
Yeah, it was really hard to do.
Yeah, I bet.
It really was. You've worked all your professional life trying to perfect a O.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I worked as a consultant on a film project, and we went through that whole same line of questions because they wanted me to design a really elaborate gold leaf piece in the window of a saloon because it's for a Western. And I kept asking questions, and the setting of where they were going to be shooting, and it was basically just kind of a thrown together makeshift town in the 1800s. I'm like, you're not going to have the elaborate gold leaf that you'd have in Kansas City or San Francisco back then in some podunk town. You're going to have something probably really amateur and crude looking in the window that says saloon, So I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff gets overlooked. I see a lot of stuff in movies now that I'm just like, nobody put any thought into this, they're just slapping up, it's like layers, because it's like, oh, well, this is what I saw in movies in the 50s in a Western, so now I'm going to do that. But it's like no one ever thought that out, because, that's not even what would have been in the original window.
In the movie Good, Bad, and the Ugly, the next time you watch it, if you didn't notice already, at the end of the town street, there's a sign that says signs, and that sign has to be 8 feet tall. I mean, it's huge. And I often wonder, did they suddenly need to, is there something on a hillside back there that they had to cover up, you know?
Right. That's probably the case.
And I think it was made in Italy. So who knows what? Maybe there was some Italian villa back there.
Right. Something very modern.
Yeah, they had to cover it up, and that's the word they came up with was signs.
I'll have to go back and watch that again. You know, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
That's a great graphics.
A lot of their artwork in that movie is just awesome.
Yeah.
Like they totally dialed that.
It's like from the letter, the font, letterhead fonts. Lots of stuff from there.
Yeah. You know, and a lot of that stuff, you know, they're taking stuff from the period and then like creating a whole font set out of just like a couple of words on an old photo of a building. You know, and that stuff looks authentic.
I know Rick Glawson, he had quite a collection of antique signs. Actually, sales boxes were really neat that he had too. They're a box filled with a whole bunch of pieces of glass
and stuff.
Yeah, of all these gilded letters, you know, and various 12 different values of gradated shading, you know.
Did you ever meet Roderick Treese?
I haven't, no.
Do you know who he is? He's another glass guy in Southern California. He's down near John Arnott, out of San Diego area. But yeah, he's got the same thing. He's got these beautiful cases with all these pullouts and
that are his.
Yeah, that are his.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And you'd have to make, I guess, like for instance, if you went to Chicago or like the Detroit School of Lettering, one of those places in the 1920s, you have to have to be certified as a master. You make your master's piece.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so those are really sought after and collectible.
Because that was like, that's when they entered the real world, right?
Right. And so that's yours that you get graded on by, whoever did the grading.
Wow, that's cool. I don't even think I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, Rick Glawson, he had a couple of them.
Did he?
Yeah. And they were pretty elaborate.
Now, you've got the American Sign Museum shirt you're wearing today.
Yep.
I have not been yet. That's up, Cincinnati area?
It's in Cincinnati,
okay.
Yeah. The Swarmstead family, Signs of the Times, they began it.
Okay.
And there's, however it's funded, it through endowments or something. I don't know.
I'm working on an article for Signs of the Times right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's when that was my goal, was to have something published in the Signs of the Times.
Yeah? Did you succeed?
A few times.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, that's kind of how I met John Arnott.
Okay.
There was an article in there. I had decorated an antique safe.
Oh, yeah, he does a lot of safes.
And we had that in common.
Okay.
And I was still in Austin when I did the safe, and when I went to California, he remembered my name from, it was like a year earlier or something, that was in Signs of the Times.
Yeah, John's one of my favorite people I've met in this business. Working with him, there was a lot of similarities to working with my dad. You know, just the dynamics of it, you know, and he's very no nonsense. You know, I liked it. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, I think he did he came and did a couple things at Lexington for us. I think so. There was a lot of sign guys came through there. You know, you'd hire them till the job was done and they were gone. I had a couple core guys that were there all the time.
Okay. Yeah, he when we got hired to do, we did a bunch of stuff for the Gap, the clothing store, and I brought him in on all that because we were just given crazy deadlines, and we'd work until 11 o'clock at night, collapse, get up next morning, do it all day again.
Did you know Danny Bustle?
Name sounds familiar.
He's Southern California, Los Angeles area.
I know.
And he described himself as, he's the guy that come in and do the little letters.
Oh.
You need something quarter-inch tall, he's your man.
Holy crap.
Yeah, he was
I could use
crazy,
a guy
you know?
like that. I hate small letters.
Oh, yeah, me too, you know.
Yeah, I'm terrible at them, too. You
Yeah.
look at them close, and they look like a 2-year-old did them.
So he used to do a lot of the really little tiny hero pieces that,
Okay, cool.
you know, you need to have this real precise stuff on.
Awesome.
Of course, then I'd monkey with him and say, I think it'd look better if it had a little outline, don't you?
They don't make a brush that small.
Speaking of small brushes, how about Guthrie? No. There was a guy in Austin, and that's what he did. He did little tiny stuff. He was a long-haired hippie guy.
In Austin, when?
Austin, in the early 80s, when I met him.
My dad and I did a lot of...
He did headlights on, he did the first painted headlights on like dragsters.
Oh, okay.
So it looked like glass.
That was
his deal.
We were doing a lot of custom paint and pinstriping and lettering and things, but that was more late 80s when we were doing a lot of work in
Gillespie,
Austin. Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell.
Oh. Anyway, he would show off and use a really large quill and use a tiny corner of it. And,
dude, awesome.
yeah, dude, like, people put their signature on after a pinstripe job.
Yeah.
It's how small you have to try to do it.
I never developed that skill.
I didn't either. Mine are terrible. It's just I put my name on the back of a boat at people's insistence.
Yeah.
I've had them. I got to come back. Oh, you forgot your name. I got to have your name on it. That's flattering. It really is.
No, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I've been asked to put my contact info in windows that we do, but it's like I'm always running around and all manic on a day that I've got to do a gold leaf job, so I never remember to do it.
Yeah. Rick had some decals that he put on windows.
Okay.
2 of them. One was instructions for the window washer.
Yeah.
And the other was his little Daddy Feingold thing.
Okay.
The man that I talked about, Carl Malmquist, he grew up in Calumet, Michigan, which is way in the copper country of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. He went from there as a young man down to Chicago, and he started sign painting, actually painting show cards for shows between the acts in vaudeville. Show card.
Wow.
They hold the card up. That's what he did.
So that's history there. Wow.
Yeah, you got somebody in their dog act,
right?
And he'd have to hurry up and letter all these things. And he said that's where he learned how to be direct and do fast. And
I'll bet.
And he learned his colors.
Yeah.
Color combinations. And then he worked for a company that sold Studebaker carriages before they were a car company. And he worked under a guy there and did pinstriping on the carriages.
Okay.
And that's where he learned his corners.
That would teach you. You
that would
did it all day long.
All day, every day. And
have you seen that video on YouTube of the guy in India doing the Royal Enfield tanks, pinstriping them?
I haven't, no.
Look that up. That'll blow your mind. The dude just grabs the tank right off the assembly line, and he's just whipping out these perfect pinstripes around the tanks, one after another.
There's no like an ox collar thing you put over it?
No, it's total old school. It's amazing. You got to look for it.
I'll do that, yeah.
It's really cool.
I went to a letterheads thing in northern Wisconsin, Tomahawk, Wisconsin. And I met, what's the guy's name? Mike Myers, maybe?
Mike Meyer, yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of his neighborhood around there.
Yeah, he's in, what is it? It's in Minnesota. Somewhere.
Is that where he's at?
Yeah.
Anyway, he wasn't too far from there, so he was at it. And we sat next to each other and visited for a while we were lettering some magician's van.
Yeah, he's one of the larger than life characters in this business.
In Tomahawk, they make Harley Davidson there's a couple of their plants are there, and went and visited one and watched them pinstripe in some tanks, and they were
doing it by hand.
Yeah, and they were just working out this mechanical robotic pinstripe.
When was this? What year do you think?
I'm pretty sure it was between 2000 and 2004 or 5.
Oh, okay.
In that time frame, and there was a woman, and she was doing the tanks, and that's what she had. What looked like an ox yoke or a mule collar made out of, how they're an oval and they're made out of leather.
Yeah.
Well, it would fit on the tank, and then she had I think it was a bugle pinstriping wheel, and the tank would kind of spin. She didn't walk around it so much, but the tank would move.
And she just kind of
one after another. Yeah.
Wow.
And then there was a fella. He was running a machine that they didn't have it worked out. He couldn't do the tank yet, but he could do fiberglass saddlebags. So that was sort of around a corner and in a straight line and around the corner. Nothing. There was no oval shapes.
Okay.
It was just all straight lines. And so when it would get to that corner, it would thicken up a little bit, and they were working on tuning up that.
Okay. Wow.
And I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, if I'm running a dagger around that, yeah, there's going to be a thick spot right there.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I watch, or I follow, what's the guy's name, Anderson? He's a pinstriper.
Oh, Gary Anderson?
Yeah.
Gary Anderson? Wait, no.
Pretty sure it's Anderson, though. And he's on Facebook. And
Gary Anderson or Alan Johnson?
I want to say it's Anderson.
Huh.
Yeah, he does a bunch of pinstripe, and the latest thing he did was a trike, Harley Davidson trike. And I look at that stuff. Yeah, I like that. I never really had a chance to do all that much of it.
Yeah, last year I got the call to do some gold leaf and pinstriping on a Jesse James chopper.
Okay.
That was kind of nice because it was kind of getting back to the type of work that I used to do with my dad. But it's a little nerve-wracking. But fortunately, they didn't tell me until after I was finished that they paid $150,000 for the bike.
Yikes.
Yeah, that puts.
Well, it really shouldn't matter.
No, it shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, I think Cliff Anderson. Anyway, that's traditional.
Yeah. Old school pinstriping.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The guy I was talking about that the old guy, Malmquist, he had a lot of influence on me. He really did. He told me to get out of town. You got to go, because I was in this little town in the Upper Peninsula. He said, you got to go where you're working all day, every day. You can't be here.
Yeah.
I'd accomplished two things. Yeah, that got me out of there.
Right.
So he didn't have any competition.
He wasn't stupid.
No, but it also, that was the beginning of my real education making science.
Yeah, I've said it over and over. You can learn more working with somebody one day who knows, another sign painter who knows a lot more than you do in some area. You can learn more in one day than you can a year experimenting on your own.
Or classes.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. When I was in school studying commercial art at Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan, the lettering that we did was very, very little brush lettering. Mostly what the time was spent doing was with a ruling pen and straight edges making perfect Roman.
Like mechanical lettering?
Yes,
almost.
absolutely. And you see illustrations where they show the little radius for the serifs. And
that's what they were teaching you guys?
Yeah, the mathematical way form those letters. Because the job you would get after that was you'd go to work for some ad agency and they need a headline. Well, they didn't typeset it. They would have you ink it.
Right.
Or if you went to work for even like the film industry, the titles and everything, they're hand done. And so that was, it was a little difficult learning to use a brush. I say probably a year of real frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Hardest thing for me, I don't know, other people is different. The hardest thing for me to do was to make a corner, to make a sharp,
Clean corner.
little corner.
Yeah.
And so finally I get that figured out, and then somebody says, well, you can use tape. Oh. Which was okay.
Yeah.
Using fine line tape to make everything even. And it was Carl Malmquist who scolded me for not having an O slightly above and below
Oh, okay.
the line, the bass lines. He would do that. How about you? When you see something badly spaced,
Uh-huh.
I grit my teeth. It's like, I don't know. It's like seeing a smile with a missing tooth. It's just,
Yeah.
you can't look at anything else.
And that's one of the frustrations with kind of the resurged interest in sign painting is the younger guys coming into it's really a mixed bag. Like some of them are just have this hunger to know anything about it, any tip to get them, to a professional level. That's cool. That's like where everyone comes from. But then I've seen more and more of like, whether it's an illustration or sign painting, where people are just kind of throwing it together, and it drives me nuts because they're not using any of the fundamentals of layout or anything else. They're just like, oh, well, it looks hand done, so that's good because, hand done is trendy at the moment.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts.
And there's some confusion about being hand done, it seems, and being lousy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
come on.
That's what I'm referring to. It's like, although there's some charm to something looking like someone scribbled it out with a Sharpie,
Yeah.
that's not, don't call it sign painting.
Right.
That's
yeah.
my thing. It's, if you're doing whatever that is and that's your style of design, more power to you, but don't call yourself a sign painter.
When I was recently, my wife and I, we went out with Teresa Dringenberg in Austin, and we were going out to dinner, and there's a sign, and it's got a backwards U. I pointed it out, and Teresa said, the A's backwards too.
What are you talking about? The widths?
Yeah,
of okay.
Yeah. And it's just, come on.
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. I mean, at the same time, without the resurged interest, those of us that are turning into old farts, maybe we're the end of it.
Yeah.
If there isn't new blood, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man.
But there are classes. There are people studying. Like I told you, this young man, I believe his name was Duncan. I think that's his first name. First rate, wham straight. He's lettering a painted cinder, cement block wall, large, big. I don't know how long it was, probably 16 foot wide. HEB, it was Austin HEB.
Okay, yeah.
So it was Austin written in that, postcard looking stuff with
Right.
the image or the scene behind each letter.
Welcome to Austin kind of thing.
Yeah. And, I'd watch him and he was talking and still, he was outlining a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it was straight, sure, and, confident what he was doing.
Yeah.
So that was a hopeful sign.
Yeah. No, there's guys out there. I mean, like James Thomas, and he's got Blue Jacket Sign Company in L.A.
Okay.
He's a younger kid. You know, he went to the Trade Tech LA school, the Doc Guthrie thing.
Right.
He has a graphic design background and everything.
Yeah, I tried to go to work for Doc Guthrie.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he sent me to Disney
Oh, okay.
to go try to get a job there.
But, you know, he's out there, you know, hitting the streets, getting little jobs, and, you know, he's been doing that for a couple of years, and he's, you know, he's doing real work now, you know. There's those guys out there, but, you know, I don't know. It's this whole millennial kind of hipster thing, you know, that's been happening for a few years now, where it's just like people are just, oh, well, I've watched a few YouTube videos, so now I'm a sign painter. I've only picked up a brush once, but I'm a sign painter. Like, I'm not a sign painter yet.
With the advent of computer-generated vinyl in the 90s, early 90s, when it really became affordable to buy a sign-making system, I swear it was like, you know, people flipped a coin whether or not to have a sign shop or a Dairy Queen.
Oh, yeah.
They just wanted to have some kind of a business with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and
I've mentioned that before. It's like the only qualification was, do you have the money to buy the computer and the cutter?
Yeah.
You know, okay, then now you're in business because you can sign the lease on your little strip mall thing.
Yeah, I had to. I like everybody, and I mean, don't get me wrong. It's another tool, and I utilize it. But I'm still running I've got a Roland 1100, whatever that is, Roland PC 1100. And I bought it brand new in 1991.
Uh-huh.
You know? And the sign making system is about 20 versions old.
Right.
I never upgraded it.
Uh-huh.
I just needed to tap out some letters.
Yeah.
I don't need it to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
And it's on an ancient Macintosh, and it has one job, and it keeps doing it.
Yeah.
And when it dies, I'm done with vinyl making.
Yeah.
I won't get another one.
Yeah.
I'll job it. You know.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. Those of us that went through the transition from paint to vinyl back to paint, or some stayed with just paint, but I think you had to be in the right place with the right little, you know, customer base to survive through it. I couldn't, you know. When my dad died, I just took the job offer that was in front of me and went to work, you know, cutting vinyl, and it was horrible. Yeah. But, you know, you got to pay the bills, so you do what you got to do. But when I had opportunity, it's like, I'm done with that. So there we go, the first ever interview on Coffee with a Sign Painter. So it's nice meeting John, nice guy, and it's nice hearing some of his history with the craft. He definitely brushed shoulders with some of the greats over his years of work, and I'm really glad he popped in. That was nice. So now, thanks to our Hooli Records, we're going to go ahead and do our segment sharing one of the songs from their archives. This is the Creole Bells. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, I know it, but it's Le Fond de Coulettes. So this is from the Arhuli record They All Played For Us, their 50th anniversary compilation, which is available on iTunes, the Creole Bells.
All right, all right.
That's what we're talking about now.
Coffee with the Sign Painter is brought to you by the Big D Speed Shop in Dallas, Texas. You can find licensed apparel of Sean Starr's original designs at bigdspeedshop.com. The show is also brought to you by Full City Rooster Coffee Roasters, makers of the Sign Painter's Blend. Coffee that Sean drinks in the studio every day. Now shipping worldwide. FullCityRooster.com. Thanks for listening to Coffee with the Sign Painter, hosted by Sean Starr. You can find all sorts of info about the show and sign painting, including previous episodes, at our website, SeanStarr.com.